Welcome back to Canhammer, everybody. Tonight's read-along, Codex NECRONS. Welcome back to Canhammer, everybody, your source for 40k from the Great White North. Today's read-along will be the new Codex NECRONS. This has been a little bit delayed since I've been away, but better late than never, so we're going to read through this thing. Now, disclaimer, I think we have literally only one or two Necrons players in Ottawa, and I've only played against Necrons once in 8th edition, and they weren't that good, and so really not paid much attention to Necrons. I don't know much about their codex from before, other than the fact that reanimation is a little bit of a pain in the butt, but didn't seem to save them. So the theme of Necrons is that they're very hard to kill and they stick around and they reanimate all the time, and so we'll see if GW has really played up that part of their sort of feel to the army. Certainly, in my opinion, GW has done a really good job over the codexes in giving people's armies back their real feel, the way they play and their stratagems and the flavor of the armies have really been there in the codexes. I think by and large for most of the factions they've done well with that. So hopefully it carries on with the Necrons and we're going to see more Necrons players. From what I've heard on the internet, and I always try and stay away from too much spoilers, it's going to be a decent codex, so I'm excited to look through it. I have the index here to compare, mostly for points. I don't want to go through, as usual, I'm not going to go through every single data slate, but we will go through some of the stratagems and warlord traits and where the real money is really for the codexes these days. This will release probably in a couple of days, and I am having a game against our local Necron player in a couple of days, and that will be posted up next week, so we'll be able to put what we learned tonight straight into action. You'll see it for yourselves in a battle report. So without further ado, let's go. So as usual, we're not going to read through the fluff. I probably will read the fluff for the Necrons because it's a little bit interesting, and I've never read it through in total before. But I'll tell you once again, the total length of the book is 120 pages, and the fluff is usually around 2/3, and this is 82 on the dot. So there you go, 2/3 again is mostly fluff, and that seems to be how most of the codexes are going these days. Let me see and try and reduce this glare for you. So I do like the dark feel of the codex. The green is obviously there, but the pages are all dark and gloomy. It's a nice feel to it, and I like it. So let's go over some of the main rules for Necrons. Of course, they have their dynasties, which is like their chapters or their regiments, and yeah, so that's kind of the same for all factions. And their main thing is reanimation protocol. So how this works now is when you lose models to death other than to morale, you kind of put them on the side somewhere, and you have to keep track of how many you've lost from that unit. And at the beginning of your turn, you roll a dice for every slain model in that unit, and on a 5-up, you get that model back. And you have to put it within an inch of a model that was not reanimated this turn, and 1 inch away from enemy models. So there are lots of things in this book, obviously, that make that more powerful. Things that make it 4-up, maybe even 3-up, or let you roll twice, or re-rolls. That is the thing about Necrons, is that they can reanimate, and so obviously a large proportion of the book's strategies revolve in maximizing that. You can imagine a large 20-man warrior unit can be quite tough to get rid of, especially if they start getting invuln saves and all this sort of thing. So this is the crux of Necrons, really, is the reanimation protocols. Is one of their thematic things, that they're kind of robots that can be reanimated, and so that's a thing. Now, given that the restrictions are they have to be placed in coherency. I think it's, yeah, so it has to be set up in coherency with a model from the unit that was not returned as a result of reanimation this turn, and more than an enemy inch from an enemy model. So if you can't do that, they are not placed, but you can do it again next turn. So it's not that it's a one-shot affair. You can keep trying to reanimate the same models every turn, but you can try and limit that by bubble wrapping or placing your models around the unit, or, you know, there's various strategies you can use to try and limit the effects of reanimation. The other thing that a lot of Necrons have is living metal. They automatically heal a wound at the beginning of your turn. So go on to some of the people here. So Imhotep is kind of the main man. He's your sort of master, and one of the common rules that a lot of these characters have is this rule, my will be done, and this basically lets you choose a Necron infantry unit at the beginning of your turn within 6 inches at 1 to advance, charge, and hit rolls for that unit until your next turn, and you can only do that for a unit once. So a lot of the HQs have this ability, my will be done. It's obviously great. You're going to see Necrons hitting on a lot of 3s and 2s because of spreading this ability around. Nemesaur Xandrek, Illuminor, Oricon, the Vargard, Oberyn, all the named characters are here. Now you'll notice most of the named characters are Sotek Dynasty, so that does limit how you take these guys. You have to run a detachment of Sotek if you want to take any of these named characters, and they all have you know, decent abilities and are fairly hard to kill. And Rakir is not Sotek. Trazyn the Infinite is Nihilak, and yeah, and then the Catacomb Command Barge. So, you know, the Catacomb Command Barge I think has changed. I think is now a character and is under 10 wounds. So, and it is a flying vehicle basically. So this is a vehicle flying character, so that you cannot shoot. It's basically, I think it's just like an overlord in a vehicle basically. And so yeah, so a lot of Necron vehicles have this ability called quantum shielding, and what this does is every time it fails a saving throw, roll a d6. If the result is less than the damage inflicted, that damage is ignored. For example, if you roll the damage was 4 damage and you roll a 3, the damage is completely ignored, not reduced, it's ignored. But it obviously cannot prevent damage by mortal wounds. So this is a big thing. So, you know, you don't have to fear that last cannon rolling a 6, because guess what? It's gonna get ignored. So yeah, pretty good. Makes vehicles much harder to kill. This has the Wave of Command ability, which gives the My Will Be Done ability, but at a 12-inch distance. It can have a Resurrection Orb, which immediately after you made your reanimation roll, you can make it again with a Resurrection Orb. And Living Metal heals. So you'll see, we'll go over some of the weaponry later, but here's your sort of basic Overlord. Overlord sort of 2s, strength 5, toughness 5, 5 wounds, 3 attacks with a 3+ save. Phase Shifter is their 4+ invuln, and they have the My Will Be Done and a Res Orb, which I believe you have to pay for, but we'll look at the end. So he's your basic HQ guy, 6 power, so we're probably talking around 100 points or maybe just under 100 points. Staff of Light is an Assault 3, 12-inch range, -2 heavy bolter basically, and War Sides are quite nice. They're going to be Strength 7, -4, doing 2 straight damage, so pretty good. Here's just your basic Lord and your Cryptek. So I suspect that most Necron armies are going to be infantry heavy, and they're going to have a lot of Crypteks, and this is why. The Cryptek is your basic character that's going to fill HQ slots for you, and it's also going to allow you to add 1 to all reanimation protocol rolls for units within 3 inches, and that's called Technomancer. And they also have the Chronometron ability. All infantry units within 3 inches have 5+ invuln against range weapons. So you can daisy chain your infantry units out from 1 or 2 cryptex. Everybody's got 5+ invuln. Everybody reanimates on a 4+, which is crazy. Canoptic Cloak gives it fly and regains D3 lost wounds. You know, you'll probably have to pay for that, so up to you whether how beefy you want to make your cryptech, but definitely you're going to see cryptechs all over. Destroyer Lords, not too bad. They're mostly for buffing your destroyers, allowing rerolls of wounds of 1 for the shooting phase for heavy destroyers and destroyers. So I think you might end up seeing if you're running a lot of destroyers. Alright, so the basic troop, the Necron Warrior. So the Warrior just moves 5. These guys are not super fast. You can have 20 in a unit, which is great. Toughness 4, 1 wound, 4+ save. So not particularly strong to start with, but they obviously reanimate. And you can buff them, as we noticed, so they can have a 5+ invuln from a cryptech, they can get a 4+ reanimation save, and their basic weapon is basically a bolter, a bolt gun, but with -1 AP. So that's pretty good. We're going to see some other things, I suspect, later that makes the basic Necron Warrior probably your troop of choice, but there he is. The other thing you can take is Immortals, of course. Immortals are basically the same, except they can only come in units of 10, and they have different weapons. So the Gauss Flayer is the basic warrior, 4 -1/1 weapon, rapid fire 1. The Gauss Blaster is what the Immortals have, and this is the same thing except it's strength 5 and -2, so that's great. Or they can change to Tesla Carbines, which are assault 2, strength 5, no AP, 1 damage, but on a 6+ it causes 3 hits instead of 1. That kind of Tesla rule. So the Tesla rule you're going to see throughout the book, always on hits of 6 gives you more hits. So, and remember, it causes more hits. It doesn't give you extra hit rolls. So those are auto hits. So that's pretty good. And I suspect there will be things that let you do that on lower numbers than 6. We have Lich Guard and Death Marks here. I don't think these things have changed very much. Lich Guard, obviously the combat-y type troops, hitting on 3s. And oh yeah, and Warriors, I forgot to mention, they shoot pretty good, hitting on 3s. So anyway, Lich Guard, 2 attacks each. They can take their 3+ invuln, 4+ invuln shield, and they can guard characters, and they have war scythe, so pretty good. Death Marks are your kind of sniper guys that drop in, and they can sort of intercept and deploy when somebody else drops in. So ethereal interception: when an enemy unit is set up, other than during deployment or when disembarking, you can immediately set up a unit of Death Marks that was in hyperspace more than 9 inches away from any enemy models and within 12 inches of the enemy unit that has just been set up. You can then make a shooting attack as if it was your shooting phase, but you have to target that unit. So that's an interesting ability. One would think it's pretty powerful, but it probably is not. They're basically just shooting bolters. They're sniper rifles basically, so it's not always good to do that. So flayed ones. Are, I think they're going to be a thing. Depending on, we need to see how much they cost, but you basically can run a unit of 25 flayed ones, no, 20 flayed ones. And these guys hit on 3+ in combat. These are your combat guys. They have 3 attacks base and a 4+ save, and they can reanimate. They are elites, so they're not troops, but they are infantry, so they get some buffs. And if any flayed ones slay any models in a unit, that unit subtracts 1 from its leadership. And during deployment, you set them up in the pocket dimension, and they can deep strike basically. So big units of flayed ones deep striking in might be a thing, maybe with a character or two. Triarch Praetorians, Triarch Stalkers. Won't go over these guys, but they're basically featuring these heat rays, which are basically meltas at 24-inch range, 2 shots heavy 2, or a heavy bolter at 2d6 at 8-inch range. So can also feature a heavy Gauss cannon, which is a 36-inch range heavy 2, strength 9, -4 d6, so a slightly stronger melta gun. So there we go. So, Satan, Shard of the Deceiver. I think we're going to see this everywhere. This is an elite choice. He's got 2 weapon skill 2, ballistic skill 2, strength 7, toughness 7, 8 wounds, 4 attacks, and a 4+ save. And of course, he's a character. He gets to attack with his fists, which is strength 7 -4, straight up 3 damage. So it's pretty hardy in combat. Has a 4+ invuln, and the big thing about the Satan is it has Grand Illusion. So at the beginning of the first battle round, but before the first turn begins, you remove the Shard of the Deceiver and D3 friendly Necron units, any units you want from the battlefield. Then set them up again more than 12 inches from any enemy models. If you do so, these units cannot charge in your first turn. So totally could redeploy 60 warriors right in your face, and then they just move up and rapid fire blast you away. So it really makes bubble wrapping super important. He has access to the powers of the Satan, of course, which are super awesome, kind of the Necrons version of psychic powers, although they don't happen in the psychic phase. And yeah, explodes and all this sort of stuff. So the Satan is very strong. The Nightbringer, Satan Shard of the Nightbringer, basically has slightly different powers, and certainly doesn't have the Grand Illusion thing, but has some ranged attacks. And anyway, it's a little bit different, but probably the Deceiver is the one you're going to see. Okay, Wraiths. The infamous Wraith got a little bit better. Apparently it got more expensive, we're going to see, but they did get better. You can take them up to units of 6, and they have 3 attacks, 4+ save, and a 3+ invuln, of course, strength 6, toughness 5. Hitting on 3s, can move 12 and automatically move through any terrain or models. That's the Wraith form ability. And look what they got now. Models can shoot and charge even if they fell back this turn, which is crazy good. They're already hard enough to kill and hit hard. Now they hit harder. Their Vicious Claws and Whip Coils both do 2 damage straight up now, and are -2 instead of -1 damage. So they hit twice as hard, and now they can charge even if they fall back. So good. And they have the Whip Coils now allow them to fight if they die, even if they get removed before they... It's the Wolfen ability, so they get to attack even if they die, which is awesome. So I think we're going to see Wraiths, and bringing units of Wraiths, 3 units of 3 Wraiths and an Outrider detachment, I think is going to be a thing, depending on how expensive they are. Scarabs, cheeky little Scarabs. Yeah, you might not see a lot of Scarabs, or they might just be cheap fast attack choices for brigades. We'll see how the Scarabs end up. Tomb Blades are the little fast attack skimmer biker dudes, moving 14 inches, and they have options of taking various things, including a going up to a 3+ save. They get their -1 to hit, so useful little unit. Destroyers, heavy destroyers are your big kind of devastator equivalents. The Gauss cannons are pretty hefty weapons. Heavy Gauss is 9 -4 d6, and these things automatically reroll hit rolls of 1, just for being them. And they are actually fast attack, and then the heavy destroyers can also self reroll hit rolls of 1. And can move and fire without suffering penalties for heavy. They can reanimate, so these guys are certainly a threat in hitting on 3s. Spider, of course, can repair vehicles as before, and can attempt to deny psychic power like a Psyker. and can breed spiders. So I don't think that's really changed much. The monolith. So these things are interesting. The monolith is big. It's toughness 8, 20 wounds, 3+ save. Has Gauss flux arcs, 4 of them. Each one's heavy 3. So now we're talking 12 shots at 5 minus 2, 1. Has living metal, and allows you during deployment. It can deep strike, but it has to be 12 inches away, and it has the portal. So you'll find this on the flyers and on the monolith. What this does is where is it? No, it's called Eternity Gate. So when you set up this model, at the same time you can set up any number of friendly infantry units on the tomb world instead of on the battlefield. Obviously, I believe you still have to meet the half army on, half army off restriction. Before this model moves in your movement phase, a single friendly dynasty unit that was set up on the tomb world can be transported onto the battlefield by the monolith. Set up the unit so it's wholly within 3 inches of this model and more than 1 inch from an enemy model. If all the knight sides and monoliths from your army are destroyed, then any units left on the tomb world are slain. So this is your way of teleporting lots of people, like a massive transport. This and the knight scythe. But watch out. Annihilation Barge, kind of your has the twin Tesla destructor. These are 24-inch assault 8, 701. And of course Tesla, so it causes extra hits on a 6. Not bad, but it's missing the rend. Has quantum shielding, so but assault 8 is pretty nice. Doomsday Arc, of course, is your heavy thing. So at 70 high power, at 72-inch heavy D6, 10 minus 5 D6. So that's strong like a shadow sword. Yeah, again, quantum shielding really helps these things to survive. Transcendent Satan is there. And the Humble Ghost Arc. So the Ghost Arc can transport 10 infantry, which must be warriors or characters. Has quantum shielding, so it has 14 wounds, toughness 6 with a 4-up save, and it can repair. So you can make reanimations for models that are embarked, even though they're not on the battlefield, which is great. In addition, you can make reanimation protocol rolls for slain models from warrior units within 3 inches of any ghost arcs at the end of your movement phase. So you get to reanimate them at the beginning of your turn, and you can try and reanimate them again from a ghost arc. So pretty sweet. Alright, Doom Scythe, and let's go Night Scythe. So the Night Scythe is your flyer that has the invasion beam ability, but this is basically that portal that the monolith has. So this thing can fly around moving 20 to 60 inches and drop any number of models and units off right in your face. So we might be seeing some Night Scythes around. So the Tesseract Vault, let's just cover the Tesseract Vault. This is a Lord of War, T7, 28 wounds, 3+ save. It knows up to 3 powers of the Satan, because it actually comes with a Satan, and it has the Tesla spheres, which are assault 5 each. So it's assault 20, 701 with Tesla. It knows 4 powers of the Satan, and it has a 4-up invuln, and it explodes on a 4-up to do d6 mortal wounds. So maybe we're going to see some Tesseract Vaults because it comes with the Satan. Alright. Here's your armory. Alright, let's move on to the good stuff. Okay, so here are the Dynastic Codes, and these are like the chapter tactics for the various dynasties. First of all, they get OPSEC as usual. The Dynastic Code applies to every unit in detachment, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So it's not restricted like the Marines, everybody gets it. The units listed below can be included in any Necron attachment without preventing you from getting the Dynastic Codes. Satan Shards, Triarchs, Illuminor, and Anrakir. So that's good. And their codes. So Saltec Dynasty gets, if it advances, all ranged weapons are treated as assault weapons until the end of the turn. Pretty sweet. Unless it has advanced, a unit this code does not suffer the penalty to hit for moving and firing a heavy weapon. Okay, not too bad. That's it might really help you to move up, so all your rapid fires can turn into assault weapons. So Mefrit Dynasty, each time a model with this code shoots an enemy that is within half range, AP is reduced by 1. So that's pretty sweet for all those rapid fire weapons. So you can drop down 60 warriors within rapid fire range, and they're all AP minus 2 bolters now. Pretty sweet. Novak, you can reroll failed hit rolls in the fight phase for units with this code if they were charged, or performed a heroic intervention. So if you're running a little outrider of 3 groups of 3 wraiths or more, they're going Novak, so they can reroll their hit rolls. Nylak Dynasty, reroll hit rolls of 1 whenever they shoot, including when firing Overwatch, as long as they did not move in the preceding movement phase. So that's yeah, not too bad. And Nefrek Dynasty, if a unit with this code advances, add 6 inches to its move characteristic instead of rolling. Add 7 if they use them. I will be done. If it advances, models can move across models and terrain as if they were not there. Okay, well that's interesting too. So 1, 2, 3, 5 dynasties. Probably we're going to see Novak if you see Wraiths, and you're going to see Sotek. I think mostly because it has a lot of the named characters, you're going to see a little bit of Sotek, and then maybe Nylak or Mifrit. Stratagems. Okay, let's check it out. Enhanced reanimation protocols for 2 CP. Before you make your reanimation rolls, you can reroll protocols of 1. I guess if you really need to pass that reanimation one particular turn just to keep an objective or something, you could spend a 2 CP for that. But otherwise, I feel like 2 CP is a bit expensive. Wrath of the Satan. Use this stratagem after a Satan shard has resolved a power. Roll d6 to randomly select a power and immediately use it. That's pretty good, but for 2 CP again, we'll see. We'll see how CP heavy the Necrons get based on their points values. Emergency Invasion Beam, 1 CP. When the last Night Scythe or Monolith is destroyed, before removing, you can immediately set up 1 unit that's on the Tomb World. Okay, so remember, if you're on the Tomb World and your transports get destroyed, you just get slain. Well, for 1 CP, you can at least save 1 of those units. There you go, it's something. Amalgamated Targeting Data. So this is basically in your shooting phase, Doom Scythes from your army within 2 other Doom Scythes. They do like an orbital strike. Yeah, I don't think it's that good. So you got your Relic, Dynastic Heirlooms, that's your Relic stratagem. Enhanced Invasion Beam. Use the stratagem before you set up a unit from a Tomb World using Invasion Beam from a Night Scythe. Or the Monolith, you can set 2 units up instead of 1 for 1 CP. So that's a nice little stratagem. Solar Pulse. Use this in a stratagem after Necron's unit from your army is declared its target, but before any hit rolls are made, pick 1 of the enemy units that the unit is targeting. The enemy does not receive cover. Okay. Resurrection Protocols. Use this stratagem when a Necron character from your army, other than Trazen and the Shard, is slain. At the end of the phase, roll a d6 on a 4+, so it's basically a Gulliman move for 1 CP, which is pretty good. Damage Control Override, pick a Necron Vehicles, and acts as if it has no wounds. Yep. Okay, 1 CP. Repair Subroutines, 2 CP. Before making Reanimation Protocols, select Canoptic Unit, and they gain Reanimation Protocols. So I didn't check that, but I think, like in the index, that the Wraiths do not get Reanimation. And that's correct. So if you want to reanimate raids, and you can only do it once per phase, obviously, then you would need to spend 2 CP. So that's a good limit on that. Self-destruction. Use this stratagem after a unit of scarabs piles in they do some wounds. Okay, disruption fields increases strength by 1 of Necron infantry in the fight phase. Entropic strike. Necron character in your army fights. Inbound saves cannot be taken against the first close combat attack made by this character. Dispersion field amplification 2 CP. Use this stratagem in the shooting phase when enemy targets a unit of Lich Guard. Inbound save goes up to 3+. And any saves of 6 reflect the mortal wound back. That's okay. 2 CP seems a bit expensive, but quantum deflection. Use this when an enemy vehicle has quantum shielding. Until the end of the phase, subtract 1 from hit rolls made for your vehicle's quantum shielding ability to see if damage is ignored. So that's good. If you really need to save a vehicle. Extermination protocols. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase before shooting with the Destroyer Lord, Destroyer, or Heavy Destroyers. Reroll all failed hit and wound rolls for 1 CP. Why not? That's pretty good. Pharaoh's Will. Use this stratagem after an Overlord has used My Will Be Done. The model can immediately use it for a second time. Adapt to subroutines. Canaptic unit from your army has advanced. The unit can still shoot and or charge. Okay, so you got your raids, you advance them up, and your 1 CP you can charge them. And of course they can fall back and charge. Dimensional Corridor. Use this stratagem at the start of your movement phase. Select infantry unit from your army as more than 1 inch away from enemy models. Remove it, then set it up again so it's wholly within 3 inches of a monolith and 1 inch from an enemy model. Interesting. Okay, moving people around. It's just monoliths, not Night Scythes. Judgment of the Triarch. Use this for Triarch Praetorians and add 1 to hit rolls in the fight phase. Gravitic Singularity for Obelisks. Cosmic Powers for 1 CP. Select the Satan Shard. It can replace one of its. So it's that replacement psychic power thing. Methodical Destruction 2 CP. Celtech unit. So it's the Celtech stratagem. Use this stratagem after a Celtech unit from your army has inflicted unsaved wounds. Add 1 to hit rolls for friendly Celtech units that target the same enemy. So that's decent for only 2 CP. Tower Crying. For 2 CP, Nihilak. Use this stratagem at the end of your turn. Select a Nihilak unit from your army. If the unit is within 3 inches of an objective marker and did not move until the start of your next turn, adds 1 to the saving throws and +1 attack. Okay. Translocation Crypt. This is Nefrek. You can set up infantry or swarm unit from your army in the crypt instead of on a battlefield. So it's a deep strike stratagem for Nefrek infantry and swarms only. Blood Rights for Novok. 3 CP is the fight again stratagem for Novok. So 3 CP to get your raise to attack again. Talent for Annihilation. This is the Mefrit stratagem. Use this stratagem before your army attacks in the shooting phase. Unmodified rolls of 6. You can make an additional hit roll. Okay. Powers of the Satan. So the powers of the Satan are their psychic powers, but they're a little bit different. I don't think they're... So they generate powers before the battle, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I guess they are like psychic powers. I thought you used them in the movement phase or the shooting phase. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. Anyway, these are the psychic powers that the Satans get. So Antimatter Meteor, roll a d6 on a 2+ closest visible enemy unit within 24 inches suffers d3 mortals. On a 6 it suffers d6. And the used power is a Tesseract Vault. The unit suffers d6 mortal wounds on a 5-up. Okay, so it's like that's your smite. 24-inch smite. Times arrow, pick a visible enemy unit within 18 inches of the Satan, roll a d6, adding 1 to the result if it's a Tesseract Vault. If the result exceeds the highest wound characteristic in the unit, 1 model from that unit chosen by the controlling player is slain. Interesting. Sky of Falling Stars. Pick 3 different enemy units within 18 inches, roll a d6, subtracting 1 from the result. If it's a Tesseract Vault, if the result is less than the number of models in that unit, the unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. Okay, it's like a d3 mortal explosion. Cosmic Fire. Roll a d6 for each enemy unit within 9 inches. Add 1 to the roll. If it's a Tesseract Vault on a 4+, this suffers d3 mortal wounds. That's a 9-inch Explosion of Mortal Wounds. Seismic Assault. Pick a visible enemy unit within 24 inches of the Satan Shard and roll a d6. For each result 6+, the unit suffers a mortal wound. Okay. And Transdimensional Thunderbolt. Pick a visible enemy unit within 24 inch and roll a d6. You can only pick a character that has 10 or more wounds. Blah blah blah. On a 4+, a chosen unit suffers d3. Then a roll a d6. For every unit within 3 inches on a 4+, they suffer a mortal wound. Okay. Well, I think you noticed the pattern here. All these are offensive mortal wounding spells. There's no defensive or buffing spells at all. It's just all in on the mortal wound causing, which is cool. Lots of ways of causing mortal wounds there. Artifacts. Okay. Alright, just having a quick look at the artifacts here. You know, the weapon ones are okay. We got that very famous gauntlet of the Conflagrator here. It's not that great, one use only. Probably if you're taking a weapon upgrade, you're taking like a blood scythe, which is a war scythe upgrade. It gives you extra d3 attacks. In terms of the non-weapon artifacts, I'm not particularly impressed with any of those. This one just gives you an extra reanimation roll once per battle. This one gives you a 4+ invuln. Most of the guys have 4+ invulns. This increases your save characteristic, not your save, so it doesn't give you a 3+ invuln. This one lets you redeploy somebody. Yeah, so not overly awesome artifacts, I gotta say. And this one gives you a 5+ Funeral Pain. That might be a good one to take. And the Warlord traits. So Enduring Will, reduce any damage inflicted by your Warlord by 1. That's pretty good. Eternal Madness, reroll failed wound rolls for your Warlord in the fight phase. Immortal Pride, friendly Dynasty units automatically pass morale within 6 inches of your Warlord. I don't think that's such a big deal considering you have reanimation, but you can't reanimate people that die from morale. So Thrall of the Silent King. Oh, that also allows you to deny a psychic power every turn, which is decent. Thrall of the Silent King. Increase the range of all abilities on your Warlord's data sheet by 3 inches. So Catacomb, Command Barge, Cryptex, blah blah blah. Okay, it's not bad. Implacable Conqueror, reroll failed charge rolls. And Honorable Combatant, if it targets the same enemy character with all combat attacks, you add d3 to your attacks. Alright, so Dynasty Warlord. Named characters and Warlord traits. Okay, so these are Dynasty Warlord traits. Okay, so Sotek, once per battle, reroll a single hit roll, wound roll, damage roll. In addition, 5 up to get a command point back whenever you spend a command point. So there's your Grand Strategist for Sotek only. So that's interesting. Mephrit adds 6 inches to your maximum range of all assault weapons fired by your Warlord and can target enemy characters. Okay, Precog Strike for Nylak. The Warlord always fights first in the fight phase, even if he didn't charge. Nefrek gets opponent subtract 1 from hit rolls that target the Warlord, and Novak roll an unmodified hit roll of 6. Make an additional hit roll. Okay, so what I can see is people running a small detachment with Sotek. It has all the named characters anyway, so if you want to run those guys, you make that guy your Warlord and you get your Grand Strategist. That seems to be the only thing in the book that gives you your CP back. Seems like it'd be pretty CP heavy, so I think you could probably run brigades because you have things like, you have swarms that can fill in your little slots. You could probably run a brigade. I think you want to max out on warriors. So I'm thinking if I'm running a list, I'm bringing the dude who teleports people around, I'm bringing the Satan Deceiver, I'm bringing maybe 2 Satans, so good, and then I'm bringing lots and lots of warriors, Cryptex, and then probably some Wraith. I kind of like that configuration, but you could certainly go flayed ones or something. Let's look at the points here. And I'll just get the index points. Alright, here we go. Here's the index, and we'll compare to the Codex. So, Anrakir, oh, these are all the named characters, let's see. Anrakir the Traveler, the same. Satan Deceiver, the same. Nightbringer is gone down 20 points. Illuminous Xeras the same. Imhotep has gone down 28 points. Nemesis Zandrek is the same. Oricon went down from 143 to 115. Trazen went from 139 to 100, and Oberon went 151 to 140. So mostly decreased in price across the board for the named guys. Let's see, Catacomb Command Barge, 130, same price. Cryptek is 70, that's down from 86. Destroyer Lord is 110, down from 124. A Lord is 73 points, it's very cheap, and Overlord is only 84 points, down from 101. So all the HQs went down in price, which is great. Death Marks, okay, whatever. Immortals are 8, and they're the same. Lich Guard 19, and Warriors are 12 points, and they were 12 points before. So a unit of 20 Warriors is 240 points, if my math is right. So 120, yeah, 240 points for a unit of 20 Warriors. So that's 3 units of that is 660. Still a bit pricey. Does that include their gun? Let's see. Range weapon, Gauss. What was it? This is a Gauss blaster. Let me see. Sorry. This is my non-familiarity with Necrons. So the basic Necron warrior has the Gauss flare, and the Gauss flares are 0. Yeah, so that's fine. So 12 points for your basic troop. So flayed one's 17. I think that's down. They were pretty expensive before. Yeah, so they're down from 21 to 17. And Triarchs are 22. That down from 25, and the Stalkers the same. Scarabs are 13 points now. Canoptic Scarabs, they were 13 before. The Raids are 55, and they used to be 38. So they're better for sure, but they've gone up from 38 to 55, which is a 50% increase, which is significant. So definitely need to be tested. Destroyers 30, and that's down from 43, and Tomb Blades are 14, down from 24. So point reductions across most things. The rates have gone up 50%. Annihilation Barge 133 is the same. Canoptic Spider 65 is down from 76. Doomsday Arc 193, and that's down from 203. Heavy Destroyers are 30, which they were 43 before. The Monolith 381, and it was the same. And Transcendentus and 10, of course, 225. So Ghost Arc 160, and it was 170. And Doom Scythe 205, 220, and the Night Scythe 160, down from 174. Obelisk 426. And the Tesseract Valve 496, those are unchanged. In terms of weapon costs, let's just see. Gauss Blaster, Gauss Cannon, Heat Ray 54, yep, Heavy Gauss has gone from 32 to 27. Particle Beamer, blah blah blah. Staff of Light has gone from 18 down to 10. And the twin Heavy Gauss obviously went from 64 to 54. Otherwise, no changes across the other ranged weapons. And the melee weapons, by and large, nobody really cares about. Let's see. Hyperphase Sword. Where's the melee weapons? Okay, Hyperphase Sword, Void Blade, War Scythe. So the War Scythe went, no, it's 11. Void Scythe is a new thing that wasn't in there before. That's 20, and Whip Goals are still 9. And other warps, so the Dispersion Field was 15, and now it's only 12. The Chronometron, that's the thing that gives you the 5+ invuln. That is new, and you have to pay 15 for that. That's probably worth it to give all your infantry within 3 inches 5+ invuln for 15 points. Canoptic Cloak is 5 points. That's also new. Fabricator Claw Array, Gloom Prism, so your Spider's ability is worth 5 points. Nebulisco Phylactery. Phylactery is 10 now from 15. Resorb was 35, is still 35. Shadow Loom 5. Shield Veins are only 3 now, down from 6. So mostly point reductions. I think the only thing that went up was the raids. Probably should have, considering they got a lot better. And that's it. So hope you enjoyed that quick read through of the Necron Codex. I think Necrons definitely got some play. We can see many different ways of fielding a Necron army. What the best way will be, I'm sure we're going to find out pretty soon. But there's lots of diversity here in ways of playing the army. I think Necron players will be pretty happy. They've been right at the bottom since 8th came out. So I'm happy that they got what seems like a decent book. So thanks very much for watching, everybody. If you like this video, please click on the like button below. Subscribe to our channel by clicking on the can hammer symbol there. And if you really like to support us, please consider supporting us on Patreon by clicking up there. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.